Okay, with no further questions, we'll call the meeting of Terrebonne Parish Council Wednesday, April 15, 2020 to order. We'll have an invocation by Councilman Danny Babin and a pledge by Councilman Darren Guidry.
Parish, the state of Louisiana, and these United States of America and the entire world. Bring us to realize that we are all one, Lord. Give us the faith, courage, and wisdom to follow and believe in you, Lord, knowing that you'll bring this dreaded virus to an end. With your love, it all can be accomplished. We ask this in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Suzette, can we get a roll call?
Mr. Batten?
Would everyone please unmute?
Mr. Batten? Mr. Dirk Guidry? Mr. Trosquare?
Here.
Mr. John Nady?
Here.
Mr. Harding?
Here.
Mr. Michelle?
Here.
Mr. John Amity?
Here.
Ms. Domain?
Here.
Mr. Darren Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. The first item is to approve the minutes of the regular council session held on March 11, 2020. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no hands, can I get a motion? Okay, we have a motion by Councilman John Amity, a second by Councilman Darren Guidry. All in favor? Roll call, I guess. We're gonna. All in favor, raise your hand.
On the screen, not your physical hand.
Oh.
Okay, we have 9 hands raised, all no nays. Motion passes. You lower your hands now.
Excuse me, Steve, there's only 8 of us, not 9.
I voted.
But Dirk is not on, at least not on the screen.
Dirk's an attendee.
Okay, I just want to make sure he's not on the screen here.
No, he's here.
All right, good.
Okay, distribute the minutes of the regular council session held on March 25th, 2020 has been done. Okay, approve accounts payable bill list for 3/30/2020, 4/06/2020, and 4/13/2020. Seeing no discussion, no speaker cards, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, we have non-unanimous.
Show one abstention, please.
I'm sorry, 1 abstention. Darren Guidry. Motion passes. General business, consider a motion to continue the condemnation hearing scheduled for April 27th, 2020 until further notice for the following properties. 119 Scott Lane, Home, Louisiana, owned by James and Sandra Shanklin. 1703 Dunn Street, Superstructure 2, Home, Louisiana, owned by Flamingo Property Management, LLC. 1303 Miles Street, Home, Louisiana, owned by Michael Sober. 520 Columbus Street, Homer, Louisiana, owned by Fern Taylor. Height, 515 Antoine Street, Homer, Louisiana, owned by Roberto Robledo and Bessie Robledo. 136 King Street, Louisiana, owned by Elaine M. Nevers Williams. 2384 Highway 665, Montague, Louisiana, owned by Joseph Leveron and Ryan Leveron. Any discussions? Seeing no speaker card, all in favor, raise your hand. Seeing 9 hands, motion passes.
A point of order, Mr. Chairman. Did we do the approved manual checklist? I know we approved accounts payable.
I didn't do it because on the sheet I have, it's not on it. It's not on the agenda. We didn't have no manuals.
Okay, thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
did anybody move and second that motion, or did we not need that for some reason?
I think I messed up.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So let's, I guess we already voted. Let's get a motion. Mr. Navy and second by Mr. Harding. And we'll do another vote to make it lit. Okay, now we have 9 votes. Motion passes. Thank you, Gerald.
You're welcome. One more point of order. Well, never mind, it's resolved. Thank you.
It's a learning curve for all of us, trust me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, item B, the resolution authorizing the parish president to sign an amendment to a cooperative endeavor agreement with the NAACP Terrebonne Youth Council for the purpose of operating the after-school program. Any discussions? Mr. Michelle, you raise your hand to discuss? Okay, Gerald? Ms. Michelle? Mr. Michelle, you muted.
Okay, Ms. Candace. Is that contract, I'm just wondering, since everybody's distancing and nobody's going to school at this point, do they have to submit receipts to get paid? And is that something that's being curtailed like everything else in the world right now?
Yes, sir. They do have to submit some receipts. We already approved the original contract. We just had the wrong date.
Right.
So all we're doing is amending it for the date. It is no longer taking place because of everything that's happening, but they are submitting some receipts to be reimbursed for prior to when all of this started.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Michelle. Mr. Navy,
That's a motion.
are you making a motion? Mr. Harding, you discussing or you?
Yeah, I'm discussing. I think we should understand it's actually revamping what was done wrong. And we look at 3.1 on this particular section. It'll find that it follows the Terrebonne Parish School Board calendar. So it's inactive right now, or would be inactive, but it does go along with Terrebonne Parish School Board. And also, I would actually follow the motion of Mr. Navy.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Okay, can I get a motion? Ms. Darren Gidry, second, Mr. John Amity. Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. With 9 votes, the motion carries. Thank you. Item C, authorize the parish president to execute on behalf of Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government an intergovernmental agreement with the Terrebonne Levy and Conservation District for the funding of a project by DOTD to repair and patch Louisiana Highway 55 in Lower Montague and Terrebonne Parish. Any discussion? Mr. Babin. Danny Babin. Okay, Dennis.
I was just making the motion, Steve. I'm sorry.
Okay, I didn't call for the motion. I called for discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Michelle?
I was seconding the motion. Ah,
Okay, seeing no discussion, we got a motion by Mr. Babin and a second by Mr. Michelle. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing none votes, it's unanimous, motion carries. Thank you. Resolution authorizing the parish president to renew and execute a contractual agreement for professional medical services between Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, TPCG, and Haydale Family Practice Professional Medical Corporation and its physicians, namely Richard M. Haydale, MD, and Scott A. Haydale, MD, for medical services to be rendered to the Terrebonne Parish Juvenile Justice Complex as the facility's physicians. Any discussion?
Mr. Trustclair, point of order, please, sir. Maybe after we finish voting, if you would just remind everybody to lower their hands, because there's some hands that are still raised from the previous motion.
Okay, Mr. Babin, yes, that's a good point. Okay, if you would, Gerald, please do what Gerald said and lower your hands. I'm trying, but I'm going back and forth here. Okay, no discussion. Now entertain a motion. And a second. I have a motion, a second. Mr. John Amity moves and Mr. Danny Babin seconds. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing 9 hands, motion carries. Please lower your hand. Item E is a resolution authorizing the execution of a change order number 1 for the construction agreement for parish project number 19-Road-68 Val High Connector at Bayou Country Sports Park, Terrebonne Parish. Any discussion? Seeing no further discussion, can I get a motion? And a second. Moved by Mr. Gerald Michelle, second Mr. Danny Babin. Let's vote. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing 9 hands, motion carries. Item F, resolution authorizing execution of change order number 2 for the construction agreement for parish project number 19, Road 68, Val High Connector at Bayou Country Sports Park, Terrebonne Parish. Any discussion? Mr. Harding. Unmute, Mr. Harding.
Unmute.
Yeah, question. Was this island a part of the original landscaping or ideas of building the sports park?
I guess that would be Mr. Toots. Mike Toots?
I could probably elaborate on that. Yeah, this island was part of the extension. What happens is the road ended in a cul-de-sac and the road is extended, but they failed to put the island in the middle of the cul-de-sac. So you'd have a road ending up in a cul-de-sac. So this island will make people go around in that cul-de-sac. So it was not originally in the plan, but originally the plan was to build the entire road. However, it was built in segments with a cul-de-sac in the middle. So you have to put an island in the center. So that was far, because they went with the master plan, which didn't include the island, but it didn't include the cul-de-sac. That explains it.
Yeah, because my question was, 'cause it seemed like when I read that, you know, I mean, it seems that they were tearing something down that was already built. And, you know, I mean, that's where the question came in, because they were putting something and tearing something down. So I can understand that point right now in reference to that change order. That was my
Thank you,
question.
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Navy?
Yes, my question is actually to Candace. Candace, in reference to change order, this is the first change or second change order on this particular project, or it's just different change orders, period?
It's two different change orders. The one that y'all just went over was change order number 1. This is change order number 2, and it all is within the budget.
It was in the budget.
Mhm.
It wasn't originally part of the
Right, but we did have some contingency and some extra funding, so that's why the change order is not affecting the budget. It was available.
Are we expecting any more change orders?
That would be a question for either Mr. Toops or Ms. Jeannie Bray, who I think both might be on the call. They might be able to help you better than I can on that.
Okay, Mr. Toops on there. I would like that question. If we anticipate any more change orders?
Mr. Toops?
No, sir, not at this time, unless they find any unforeseen situations that they need to address.
Okay, Mr. Dove? Mr. Dove?
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, no, I think they all answered the question. I was trying to answer this cul-de-sac and then answer John Navy's question, but Mike Toops answered it, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Seeing no further discussion. I'm sorry, Mr. Michelle.
No, I was anticipating no further discussion. That's a motion.
Okay. Okay, see no further discussion. I entertain a motion in a second. Motion, Mr. Gerald Michelle, second, Mr. Danny Babin, all in favor. Signify by raising your hand. Seeing 9 hands, motion passes. Item G, resolution authorizing execution of change order number 3 for the construction agreement for parish project number 18, BRG 49, Polk Street Replacement Project, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Seeing no speaker cards, any discussion from the council? Seeing no discussion, I entertain a motion in a second. Motion, Mr. Darren Guidry, second by Mr. Danny Papin. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing no objection, 9 votes, motion passes. Please lower your hand. Item H, the resolution providing for the acceptance of work performed by Baker Tile Driving and Site Work LLC in accordance with the certificate of substantial completion for parish project number 18, BRG-49, Polk Street Bridge Replacement Project, Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. Seeing no speaker cards, any council discussion? Seeing no discussion, I entertain a motion to, and a second. Motion by Mr. Darren Guidry, second by Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing 9 hands, motion carries. Item L, the resolution allowing disaster infill housing program funds to Options for Independence in an amount not to exceed $150,000 for permanent financing of affordable single-family home located at 107 St. Circle, Home, Louisiana. Any discussion? See no speaker card. Seeing no discussion, signify, vote, entertain a motion in a second. Motion, Mr. Paul Harding, second, Mr. Don Navy. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing none votes, motion passes. Please lower your hand. Item J is resolution authorizing entering into a cooperative endeavor agreement with South Central Louisiana Human Services Authority and authorize the parish president to sign said agreement. Any discussion? Seeing no speaker card, can entertain a motion in a second. Motion, Mr. John Navy, second, Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing nine hands, motion carries. Please lower your hand. Item K is a resolution concurring with the recommendation of parish administration to award bid 20-ANSH-06 for the purchase of new unused digital X-ray machine with computer and software to the lowest qualified bidder, Wayne LeBlue and Associates. Any discussion? Seeing no speaker cards, entertain a motion in a second. Motion, Mr. Danny Babin, second, Mr. John Amity. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing 8 hands, motion passes. 9 hands, I'm sorry. I forgot to count myself. The item L is a resolution giving it notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to dedicate and accept the maintenance operation of streets, drainage servitudes, gas, and rights of way for Belmont Place, energize and accept the street lights, and to incorporate Independence Drive and Clearwater Lane to the enhanced 911 emergency response system for the purpose of providing a better means of locating addresses and calling a public hearing on said matter Wednesday, April 29, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, no speaker cards, can I entertain a motion? And a second, motion, Mr. Paul Harding, second, Mr. Darren Gidry. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing 9 hands, motion carries. Thank you. Please lower your hands. Resolution authorized Terrebonne Parish President Gordon Dove to enter into an agreement with All South Consulting Engineers LLC for the purpose of implementing Government Accounting Standards Board GASB Statement Number 83, Certain Assets Retirement Obligations. Any discussion? No discussion, no speaker cards. Entertain a motion in a second. Motion, Mr. John Navy. Second, Mr. Darren Gidry. All in favor? Raise your hand. Seeing 9 hands, motion carries. Thank you. Item N, the consideration of the introduction of an ordinance to amend number 4384 to add section 16 of the parish personnel manual to provide additional benefits to parish employees granted under the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, and calling a public hearing on said matter Wednesday, April 29, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Any discussion? Mr. Babin.
No, I'm sorry. I just hit the button too soon. I was making the motion.
Okay. Mr. Navy, you want to speak? Okay. You got a motion by Mr. Babin, and second by Mr. Navy. All in favor? Say by raising your hand. See 9 hands. Wait, somebody change. Okay, we got it. See 9 hands. All motion passes. Item O, consider the introduction of an ordinance to authorize the surface lease for the Louisiana Land Exploration Company, LLC, for a tract of land bounding the site of Homer Generating Station and a permit for electric transmission line therein situating called public hearing on said matter Wednesday, April 29th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Have any discussion from the council? Seeing no discussion lights, and no speaker cards, entertain a motion. Mr. Jeremy Michelle, second by Mr. Danny Babin, all in favor. If I raise your hand. See nine hands, motion passes. Thank you. Lower your hands, please. Consider introduction of an ordinance to amend the 2020 adopted operating budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and budgeted positions of Terrebonne Parish consolidated government for the following positions and to provide for related matters. Child Advocacy Group, $25,000. Valhalla Drainage Improvements, $127,000. Animal Shelter, $2,500. Home Downtown Marina, $1,980. Home Fire Department, $15,000. Water Management Program, $250,000. Government Tower Generator Project, $46,770. Terrebonne Juvenile Detention, $17,240. Government Building, Water Life Museum, $3,017. Houma Police Department, $22,709. Utilities, a minus $69,300. Item A under that, delete a full-time utilities administrator. The GIS mapping system, $58,672. Add a full-time GIS manager. And calling a public hearing on said matter April 29, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. Any discussion of council? Seeing no discussion and no speaker cards, get a motion and a second. Motion, Mr. Danny Babbitt, second, Mr. John Amity. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing nine hands, the motion carries. Item Q, Councilman John Navy requests the coronavirus COVID-19 status update and update the availability of resources for the public and possible action. Mr. Navy.
Yes, actually, Steve, I just want to make a few comments, but I'll ask for Earl to give the update. But a couple of things that I want to look at is we're limited to information that as council members we can send out as far as mail out. I gave a little example and some of your backup information, backup reference to coronavirus and the effects of it and the do's and don'ts. That's literature that I was trying to see if the parish can allow some of us to either mail out or even have that information available for the public. We do know, and some of my concerns, we do know from the Louisiana Department of Health, as far as the disparity among African Americans, that it's an increase in the death rates, and there's some concerns for the African American community. So I want to kind of continue to bring about some awareness any kind of way that we can. Mr. Dove has done an excellent job as far as Earl and yourself, his leadership, showing the direction with this particular virus. But I would love to continue to see if we can get any kind of literature out to the public in reference to this. And then I guess the resources would be the way that we can do this from some of the information that I also gave you. Also, I would like for Earl, if it's no problem, because one thing, Earl, I want to try to do is touch upon transparency for the simple fact that as a government that we're allowing ourselves to, share information to the public that we actually have available, so people could know that we are trying our best to do what we can. Like I said, yourself and Mr. Dove have done an excellent job along with Steve as far as the leadership. But one thing that I wanted to bring out, Earl, is that of concerning our own staff members, anyone that either test positive or think they're positive, to make sure that we do inform staff at a timely manner, because this is one of these type of viruses that, day by day matters as far as spreading. And if we are around people or around staff or anyone like that, or our employees, that can be some serious negligence on that part if they're not being due diligent about what they need to do once if they have the virus or test for the virus. I know you have touched on that before, but I just wanted to bring about some of that before you make your presentation and just elaborate a little bit on that. But that's all I have to say right now at this moment, Steve, on that matter.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes. All right. So I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of what I have for today. At the current time, we have 273 coronavirus cases in Terrebonne Parish. That is an increase of 8 from yesterday. The last few days, we have been getting single-digit increases, which is good for us. It's showing that the stay-at-home initiative is working. Okay. Of those 273 cases that we have at the present time within Terrebonne Parish, a very small number of those are in the hospital, and a majority of those are well and are at home. You got to remember that number started March 13th is when we had our first case. So a lot of these people are well and are at home at this time. We do have 17 deaths in the parish, and we had no increase from April the 12th, which is good for us on that aspect. Just a couple of new things that occurred today. Governor John Bel Edwards signed a proclamation. He will be closing school to the end of the school year. And he also mentioned that students will be getting their education via remote learning. I don't have all the particulars on that, but I'm sure the school board will issue something out on that aspect. And also Region 3, which is our public health region, they opened up what they call a coronavirus, a self-testing site in Hornville. So from 8 a.m. to noon each day, if our residents want to drive over there, they can get tested. There's no insurance or physician referral necessary, no test for symptoms, and it's from 8 a.m. to noon each day, and they will run through April 24th or until they run out of test kits. You must be 18 years of age, and it is called self-testing. They hand you the swab, and you have to swab your own nostrils for that test. So the other thing we just found out right before the meeting, the Hanes Corporation, the people that make underwear and t-shirts, will be donating about 2 million cloth masks to the state of Louisiana. Those 2 million masks will be divided up amongst the population of each parish. So we'll be looking at getting about 51,000 of these masks that can be distributed out to the public, and we'll find a way to get those masks out to the public. So, Mr. Navy, I forgot what your question was regarding getting the information out. Just to kind of let you know, we are sending out the daily briefings and the Facebook, and we instituted the text TP Covert to 888-777 and try to get as much information out as possible on a timely basis. But I don't remember what your question was.
In reference to information, I spoke with President Dove, and I guess I think he's still on the line too, in reference to if we can also mail out some literature, if that's all possible. Like I said, I gave an example of some of the literature that's available just as a template, but to give permission to possibly do that if Mr. Dove find it feasible that if we can do that. I'm not sure if he's still on the line to answer that question. The other question was basically just making sure the process in place as far as staff, if any staff members, our employers or whatever, our employees come up with either they being tested or have tested positive, making sure that there's a process in place to make sure that they stay there, due diligence at home and do what they have to do also.
Yeah, Mr. Day, what the process for that is, each director is responsible for reporting his employees that may have called in sick to the Human Resource Department. So at the present time, all of that data is given to to Dana Ortego and Human Resources. If they go and get a test, we ask them to self-quarantine themselves and to report back to us whether the test is positive or negative. And at that point, the director is taking the initiative in each department to make sure that other employees are notified if they have a positive person in their department, and to make sure that their areas and offices get disinfected, and that employee does not come back to work unless he's released by his doctor, and or he does not have fever, he or she does not have fever for 3 days following his positive test that's at least been previous 7 days, and he or she has no other symptoms that they would be allowed back to work. So every day, Mr. Ortego sends out a report of each department on what's occurring and who is positive and who's out getting tested or who may be sick and under quarantine. And also, you know, if they have a family member, an immediate family member that may be to have tested positive, that employee is allowed to stay home also under quarantine if that occurs. Anything else, Mr. Navy?
I'm done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Michel.
Yes, Mr. Hughes, I have a couple of questions. One is about what you were just saying. Are they required to be retested and have a negative test before they come back?
If the doctor prescribes it, they will. But if not, if they follow the CDC guidelines of the not having fever for at least 3 days prior to their positive test, and at least 7 days from their first onset of symptoms. So, and if they don't have any symptoms, then that's the CDC requirement, is they can come back to work.
Okay, thank you. And go ahead, sir.
I mean, I've expressed this in some of our conference calls. The coronavirus is like the flu. Once you get it and you're over with it, you no longer have the coronavirus. So it's not like a disease that stays with you the rest of your life. So it's kind of like the flu. If you're well from your flu symptoms, you can get back out into your regular duties.
Okay, thank you. My other question is about moving forward, and I'm not suggesting that we do anything prematurely, but is there a plan in place on how we're going to move forward? Is it going to, you know, are we going to just at some point say, okay, well, the businesses can open up, or is there going to be steps involved? Do we have any, do you have any thoughts, or have any decisions been made on how that's going to happen when the time is right?
I have discussed this with Parish President Dove on a couple occasions. The things that we have to follow is we're going to have to follow the Louisiana Department of Health on what their recommendations are, and also how the governor is going to proceed with his executive orders on releasing the stay-at-home initiative for the whole parish. So I think I personally think it's going to be a step-by-step process. And just, you know, everybody needs to remember we've never had to go through this before. So it's going to be something new for everybody. And you know, there's going to be some questions raised. Well, why y'all let him open before I got to open? So we're going to come across those things as it's time to I guess, loosen the reins on everybody staying at home and what businesses are open and closed.
Okay. And look, I'm just going to throw this out there for future pondering, okay? Maybe something to be considered with these restaurants is that they reduce the number of people, that they reduce their capacity so families can go in and maintain that 6 foot distance or 6 or more foot distance. And perhaps restaurants, I mean, you look at Texas Roadhouse, that's the one that's I always see as being most crowded. If you reduce their capacity and also require that they take reservations for a period of time, just a thought. I wanted to just throw that out there. And look, Earl, I appreciate everything you're doing. You're fantastic. And you know, I don't know that anybody said this, but you know, we have these briefings pretty much every morning, and I'd like to thank Mr. Babin for putting that together for us, because that's been incredibly useful, I think, for all of us. So thank y'all all.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. And we got a great staff and everyone in the parish, including all of our law enforcement and the parish employees that are continuing to work during this event. It's been heartwarming to see our parish employees continue to work and take care of the people of this parish. So thank you for that.
Miss Domay.
Yeah, and Earl, thanks again for everything you've been doing. You've been working really hard on this entire time. I do have a question regarding something that came out today. The governor, Governor Edwards, he said that Louisiana has flattened the curve. So can you explain to us what that means and what that means to the parish? And because we flattened the curve, does that mean that everybody can just leave their houses, can get back to their way of life? I just want a little bit more clarification of what flattening the curve actually means. Thank you.
So when we first started about flattening the curve, what we were trying to do is spread out the number of cases over a period of time. The regular epi curve that they usually use during these events is you'll get a very high jump in the number of cases, and then it falls very quickly. But when you do that, you overload the hospitals. You come to a point where you don't have enough hospital beds, and you don't have enough especially like ICU beds and ventilators, as in this case. So by flattening the curve, it was allowing people would still get sick and get diagnosed and still go in the hospital, but they would go into the hospital at a slower rate, so that we wouldn't what they call med surge the hospital with all these sick people at one time. And so a lot of people are trying to use the number of cases as a guidance to whether or not we're flattening the curve. I think a better use of figuring that out, and I think that's what the state's is doing, is using the number of admissions and discharges into the hospital system. And if you've been listening to the governor the last few days, he's been talking about how there's been less admissions in the hospital and less use of ventilators within the hospital. And I think that's what he's using to flatten the curve. Now, just because we flatten the curve doesn't mean that the viruses went away. Okay, we still need to continue to do social distancing and practicing our hygiene and washing our hands and that nature that we've been doing for the last month. If we do not continue to do that, we could get a spike in the number of cases again, which would prolong the time frame that we would have to keep under the stay-at-home orders. So it's still very important that even though the governor is talking that we flatten the curve, we still have to practice the social distancing practices that we're doing, so we don't get this second spike, is what everybody else is calling it.
Okay, I understand that. So it means that Louisiana's in a good place, but we need to just keep doing what we're doing.
Definitely, we need to continue to do what we're doing so that we can get to the point to where there's very few to no cases.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Mr. Darren Gidry.
Yeah, Earl. Well, first of all, I think a lot of people are confused about what the role of parish government is as far as the coronavirus goes. You know, we can create guidelines, but correct me if I'm wrong, Earl, we can do guidelines that are more strict than the state emergency order, but we cannot do anything less strict than the emergency order from the state, correct?
That is correct. And the parish president has ultimate authority to order anything that he wants to be done for the protection of the health and safety of the residents of this parish. He has that right through the Louisiana Disaster Act.
Right, but we can't, my point is, we can't back up and allow people to use restaurants and such as long as the state order is in place, because the state order would take precedence then. Again, we can make something more strict, but as a parish, we can't do anything less than the state. we have to look at the state for that. The other thing is, I think it's really important what you said about the self-testing, and I'd like you to repeat it because a lot of people out there have been, have wanted the assurance of knowing whether they have or don't have the coronavirus, but their doctor won't recommend it. Could you repeat that again? Because I think that was really important about the self-testing.
Well, when I talked about the self-testing, that is what's going on at Hornville High School. So the self-test means that you drive there and they hand you the swab and you swab your own nose with it. Okay, so that's what the self-test means. So there's not a health professional taking that swab and putting it in your nose or your nostrils. So that's what that means on the self-test. But, you know, we've been saying all along, the test kits have been very hard to get, okay? There's only a certain number, and what people need to realize is this is still continuing to go on throughout the world. So everybody is still looking for test kits. So we have a very limited number. So I've been telling everybody it's not important to know whether you have it or not unless you're in the hospital or a nursing home or some other healthcare facility. Because if I could have it right now, and if I have the symptoms, there's no antiviral, okay, and there's no vaccine. So the doctor will send me home and put me under quarantine for 14 days. Well, I can do that without a test, okay? So because I'm already sick, so I need to be home anyway, and I shouldn't be at work, and I shouldn't be out in the public, so I need to quarantine myself for 14 days. The important part of using these tests for the hospitals is because we got people in the hospital that we don't know if they're positive for the virus or not, or if they're negative. And as long as we don't know what they are, all the nurses and doctors and healthcare professionals have to continue to wear this personal protective equipment, this PPE. And we've been hearing that a lot. So we don't have enough to go around to everybody and everywhere, because you got to remember, this is still a worldwide pandemic. So the importance of using these tests in the medical field, the nursing homes and the hospitals, is what we need to push, that the general public doesn't really need to know if they have it or not. Okay, if you're sick, just go home and quarantine yourself for 14 days.
And I understand that, and I know they're trying to work to see, you know, if they can have more testing available. And whenever they do have the tests available, you know, it would be good to offer something that, you know, people, for their peace of mind, you know, some location or something, self-testing like Hornville has, or something they could do when they're available. Again, we don't want to take them away from people who are showing symptoms, but when they do release those tests, I know they're offering so many of them now. They're having a test, I think they're coming out with, that you could just spit in a jar and give them the saliva, and they can test with saliva. So I know within the next couple of weeks, we should have tests where if people want just the peace of mind, you know, they can do that. I think that is what I hear the most of, but we don't want to take tests away from people who are showing symptoms. So thank you, Earl. I appreciate what you do.
All right, thank you, Darren.
Mr. Navy?
Yeah, no, going back to some things that I was listening to what Gerald was saying too, but look, this is a challenging thing for all of us. And I know Steve Pineville, the sheriff, and Dana and all of those guys, you know, been working diligently to keep President Dove compliance order with the stores and everything and compliance. But I mean, look, this is a challenge, and that's why I'm saying, and I'm glad Jessica asked the question about, you know, what does it mean flattening the curve? Because I don't want to get an impression that, oh, we all good and let's go out there and party like it's 1999 all over again. No, I still believe that we need to be proactive. And I didn't get my question answered too in reference to the resources. I think Mr. Dove is still on the phone, or Jules or anyone, as far as allowing, if all the council want to do it, you know, I guess that'll be to some discretion, but allow us to also to send out some resources and put some resources out there also in the community, even if it's by a little flyer or something for a mail out or whatever. So can someone elaborate on that for me? If anyone can tell me what direction I need to go with that, if I want to do that, you know, because once again, I told you some of the concerns I have is the numbers, is the concern in the African-American community with the coronavirus. So anyone that could really address that, that's on here?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, just say there.
Mr. Navy, as you know, the parish code does provide for council members to be able to provide certain mail outs up to 50. After it exceeds 50, 50 mail outs, you got to vote on it, as you can see, is what is required in the ordinance. So as I told you and explained to you yesterday, you needed to get with administration. I do not know exactly what's budgeted for that.
Okay. Is Candace or Mr. Dub on the line that can elaborate also?
Mr. Navy, I'm here. I'll have to look at the budget. I don't know exactly what is available, but I can look at that tomorrow and let you know.
I appreciate that. And when, like I said before, you know, look, this is a challenge for all of us, but I just can't go without thanking, you know, the chief and the sheriff and all the things that Steve Pineville and Mr. Dub administration has been doing. I really don't see politics as I thought I saw in the beginning, but I see a team of people trying to work together to trying to help this community overcome this crisis. So thank you all, and I appreciate all the support that we've been giving to each other. So thank you on that.
Mr. Harding.
Yes,
Mr.
again.
Harding?
Yes, again, I want to say Earl has been doing a very great job. And I'm actually seizing the opportunity for those that are listening here to let everyone know that he's been doing a great job. And the council members, and like John said, law enforcement, Mr. Dub. But one thing that we want to make clear, and we have been speaking about as council people following the direction of Earl and coming from governor's office, we don't want to actually have the thought of that just because we leveled off that this virus is over. The other thing is everyone haven't been tested. Everyone that actually have had the coronavirus haven't died. So we have to find our way until we start to have a spike to go down. And then the leveling off, well, we have an opportunity to make decisions right now. And I think that's what Earl's been trying to tell us. Just don't, like John said also, don't go out there like 1999 and party. So we want these numbers to go down. We got surrounding parishes that their numbers are still elevated, and we're concerned about them. And so I really think that Terrebonne Parish, for the citizens of Terrebonne Parish, we've done the best, and our numbers are really looking good. And I appreciate Gordon Dove, Earl Hughes, and the rest of my council members for doing a great job. That's what I want everybody to know out there in Terrebonne Parish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Danny Batten.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate on a few things that were said. First and foremost, if you don't know that, and the public may not, I was tested positive. I had symptoms 21 days ago. I was tested 18 days ago, and I've been 12 days without any symptoms nor fever. My doctor said there would be no second test. And the main reason there'd be no second test right now because of shortage of test kits. Whether I got tested and this time came up negative, it would mean nothing. And like Earl alluded to earlier, whether you're tested or you're not tested, if you quarantine yourself, the medicine is going to be the same that they're going to give you whether you test positive or test negative, okay? So again, some of the main reasons for no second test for people who have tested positive is just a sheer lack of test kits around. And as you said earlier, want to use them for the doctors, the nurses, the first responders, the ones that are in the hospital. So I just wanted to make that clear and let everybody know this thing is real and it does knock you down, but you bounce right back once you're out of it. At least I did. And unfortunately, we've lost 17 people in this parish, and that's 17 too many. But Earl, also, you gave some statistics, I think, yesterday on the breakdown of people. If you could give that again, that would be beneficial, maybe.
Well, at the present time, with the 17 deaths that we have, there's currently 8 white persons and 9 black persons within that 17. And of the 17 deaths, the oldest person was 98 years old, and the youngest person in those deaths was 62. So we are trying to keep up with the statistics and what's happening and what's going on. We are a little different than what the state is right now and what the national average is, but that doesn't mean it could change. I mean, that it's not going to change or it can't change. It could change tomorrow, you know. So, but we are keeping up with it and making note of what's happening in our parish.
Thank you, Earl and Steve.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, I don't think we have any action to take on this item. I'll entertain a motion to deviate to 6:30 public hearings in a second. Motion by Mr. Danny Babin, second by Mr. Darren Guidry. Signify by raising your hands to vote. Okay, okay, now I see 9 votes. Motion passes. Okay, 6:30 public hearings. Item A is an ordinance to dedicate and accept the maintenance operation of streets, drainage, servitude, right-of-ways for Imperial Land and Subdivision. Phase A, energize and accept the street lights to incorporate Supreme Drive, Supro Drive, and Refinery Drive into enhanced 911 emergency response system for the purpose of providing a better means of locating addresses. Okay, seeing no public online and no speaker cards. Can I get a motion to close? And this motion, Mr. Gerald Michelle, second, Mr. Danny Babin. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Seeing 9 hands, motion passes. Entertain a motion to adopt. Motion, Mr. Hamady, second, Mr. Michelle. Signify by raising your hands to vote. Seeing 9 yeas, motion passes. Entertain a motion to go back to regular order. Motion, Mr. Danny Babin, second, Mr. Carl Harden. Please vote, raising your hand. Seeing 9 votes, we'll go back in the regular order to item.
R.
I'm sorry, here it is. Item R. Councilman John Navy requests TITA Director to provide the council and public with an update on available resources for businesses and organizations affected by the coronavirus. Mr. Navy.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank Tita and Matt Rucker. He's gonna give you some information, but I just want to thank Matt for stepping up to the plate and really trying to assist and help not just the small business, but the minority, disadvantaged, and women-owned business, to give them opportunity and to give them information that, you know, in other areas are not given. So Matt, I'm pretty sure you're on the line. I want to thank you, man, for that. And look, I appreciate everything you have done, and you're not forgetting on this one. So thanks, brother.
Mr. Rucker?
Thank you. Get a mic check real quick. Can y'all hear me okay?
You good?
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was quickly go through kind of our path of events while I had you guys. I'll try to keep everything brief. I'm going to skip a lot. And mostly I'm going to skip the personal impacts. Don't think I'm ignorant to it, but I think for the purpose of this call, I'm going to stick to the business side of what's going on in the community. And so just wanted to say that first. You know, the economic side of this happened much like the public health side happened, quick, fast, and deep. Unlike a lot of other events, we've dealt with historically in various organizations I've been a part of. This one came fast without much warning, and frankly, the resources to help recover have been quite different because unlike a hurricane event, which we're more accustomed to, the geographic scope here is just enormous. I mean, basically the entire world is dealing with this. The supply chains have been disrupted, even if the business can operate, and we see various other types of issues, including the reduced demand on the oil and gas industry, and coupled with an increased supply, has kind of been a 1-2 punch. So with that, what we saw immediately after the governor declared a state of emergency, we have existing partnerships with Louisiana Economic Development and the Louisiana Business Emergency Operations Center. We began calling businesses on the economic driver list from the state. We contacted about 5% of the entire businesses that were contacted on that list between March 16th and March 18th. So in that 2-day period, to kind of take a baseline of what businesses were already doing and what they expected to happen. By the time those results even got published, we knew we were dealing with a game changer, frankly, economically speaking. And so that was good to have, but quickly kind of became irrelevant. But it gave us a good start reaching out to businesses and starting to have those conversations about the effects. We then kind of moved into how do we get information out? We were seeing a lot of resources for generalized information. We saw Earl doing an incredible job getting out local information. I think our governor has done a great job at getting out statewide information. But there was a lot of businesses who were getting lost in kind of that breadth of information that was out there. And so what we did was try to distill the resources that were for businesses. So the same types of folks and sources that Earl was using, like the CDC and OSHA, Earl probably doesn't use OSHA, but the CDC and other public health institutes were putting out guidance for businesses. How do you sanitize your business if you have to remain open, those sorts of things. And so we were pushing that out on the web with some of the longer term standing information, and also using social media to kind of push shorter term, quick news items out as it related to business. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from doing that. So the next thing we did was worked with the state and with the Chamber of Commerce to get the economic injury worksheets out, collected, and back to the state for the SBA disaster declaration. That was a quick 36-hour time frame. We were able to get about between 20 and 30 of those economic injury worksheets. And as you know, there's a lot more steps to it than just those worksheets, but it's part of the package that was able to be used to have Louisiana declared as an SBA disaster area and open us up to those economic injury disaster loans for Louisiana businesses. The other thing we've done, I think, that I'm pretty proud of is we started doing some summaries of these programs, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program and the Paycheck Protection Program, and pushed them out online via SlideShare. Right now, I checked this morning, they had over 1,500 views each. And so that's getting a lot of activity. People are actually going on them and making sure that they qualify, how they can qualify, and we have some pretty easy examples. We partnered with Councilman Navy as well to do a quick webinar for minority and disadvantaged businesses who were getting left out in some of these outreach efforts, and had about 20 attendees for that call. And so overall, we've reached out and talked directly to about 300 businesses in just under a month. And so when you're dealing at the executive level, you can imagine how hard it is to get those folks, especially when they're running and dealing with the issues they have for their business. So quickly, I wanted to go over the programs for you guys that are out there and kind of give you where we are relative to them. The first one, and kind of the most lauded program from the CARES Act, the federal legislation, created the Paycheck Protection Program loan. Those are for small business and nonprofit organizations. Essentially, you're able to get 2.5 months of your payroll up to $10 million, excuse me, per business. And those can turn into be forgivable loans based on how you use it, and use those proceeds within an eight-week time frame. And so if you use those proceeds for rent, utilities, and bringing your payroll back up to the previous disaster levels, then those funds are exempted. The remaining funds are deferred up to a year, and the loan is termed out at 10 years at 4%. So even the money that that is not forgiven is at a pretty good term rate. You deal with your local banker for this program, which is both good and bad. It allowed folks to get money out quicker and easier with pre-existing relationships. But what we're starting to see is some folks that didn't have those deep relationships with banks for whatever reason, or they're a smaller business and don't kind of demand the same. Well, the banks are prioritizing, right? And those are especially with the big national banks, but even some of the local and regional banks don't have the resources to lend to every one of their customers just because of the scale of this. And so we do see a little bit of an issue with that. And then I was reading an article shortly that they're expecting that program to potentially reach its full subscription by the end of the day. And so, the loans that are approved should still go out, and we should see that, but we may in the next 24 to 48 hours see a pullback from banks being able to make those 100% federally backed loans. The other program that's out there at the federal level is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. That program operates directly through the SBA. So you don't talk to your bank, you go to sba.gov. You can try to call the local Small Business Development Center. Ours has been pretty good, but I will tell you they're backed up, they're hard to get to. And so the best way is, if you have access, is to go to sba.gov and go through their economic injury process. That program is intended to provide 6 months of working capital up to $2 million, both to small businesses and recently to nonprofit organizations as well. So if you had a nonprofit and weren't eligible immediately, those rules changed last week. You can also get a partial forgivable advance, which is $10,000, that as soon as they approve the loan, they can issue the $10,000. That would be forgiven, and then the rest of the funding would come through. The rates on that are also pretty good, 30-year term, 3.75% for businesses and 2.75% for nonprofits. So that's a good option for folks who may not qualify for the Paycheck Protection Program, and also for those folks who may not be payroll heavy companies. So like an example of a restaurant where you don't have a really high payroll expense, the economic injury loan may be a better option for those businesses. As part of our work with South Central Planning, we worked with them as well to launch a small business loan program. This one is targeted for companies with less than 30 employees, and you have to be in business for at least 3 years. The loan amount is small, working capital loans up to $20,000, and they're deferred 6 months. Those loans are being termed at 5 years with 0% interest on years 1 and 2, and then 4% on years 3 through 5. And so it does give some runway working capital to some of these smaller businesses that may not be able to qualify or may not be able to get the forgivability portion of some of the other programs. Those are the three big resources out there. I've mentioned a few of the holes that we saw. And so I wanted to also quickly talk about a program that, working with President Dove and the Home Terrebonne Chamber and SCIA, we put together a program funded by BHP for $500,000 that we just released on Monday. And the Terrebonne Economic Development Foundation, which is the sister entity to TEDA, the authority, we will be making up to $10,000 grants to help wraparound funding to help fill those gaps for critical expenses that these businesses have. $500,000 is an incredibly generous donation, but I want to be careful when we're talking about this. This is not a silver bullet for the business community of Terrebonne Parish. You know, $10,000 can do a lot for some businesses. Some businesses, it won't move the needle. But what we're trying to do is look at these, ask for the critical expenses, ask what their recovery strategy is, and help create a path back to sustainability for these folks. And so we're working hard on that. We've gotten an incredible feedback over the last, I guess, 36 hours now that the program's been open. We're getting applications in. We're hoping to make the first funding decisions on that program tomorrow. And if all goes well, we will start issuing checks on Friday for that program. But thanks to everyone involved. That went from concept to reality literally in about 10 days. And we're hoping to move some money, 15 days after we started talking about it. So really proud of the work our team has put in for that. And Councilman Navy, I hope this addresses most of the questions you had. I wanted to be somewhat brief because you can talk about these programs for an hour apiece, but wanted to be as brief as I could and get you guys some information.
No, I appreciate you, Matt. Thanks for the information too, man.
Mr. Harding.
Yes, I appreciate all that information that he had. And one of the things that he said that, the banks and their ability to loan money out. Some information that I wish I had some of that, and I'm asking you for that information you just gave. Because I was concerned about, like my barber, he has a business, been doing all right downtown, and he has people that's working for him, I'm worried about the little person. And like you said earlier, $10,000 to some people is not even a drop in the bucket. So I'm just concerned about those small people that really can survive, that are not considered essential, and having not been able to go to work, such as the barbers, salon, and the other people that, really might come out of this on the deep side of it.
Yes, sir. And it's funny that you used a barber as an example, because that's the example I use to talk through it with people. One of the examples is location-based businesses are the ones that we need to help make sure they don't lose their building. So for a neighborhood barber is a great example of that, where if the barber loses that facility because even if he qualifies for one of the programs, if the money doesn't flow for 90 days and he loses the facility, you can't just recreate that business somewhere else. His business is in that neighborhood. And so even though that may qualify for another program eventually, in that circumstance, that's something we would want to look at funding to make sure they can keep that location through the grant program until some loan proceeds or another program is available to help them sustain, get to sustainability. So we're not going to alone be able to do it, but what we're looking at is places that we can make the most impact and try to help get them to where they need to be.
Thank you, Mr. Harding. Mr. Darren Gibbons.
And yeah, Matt, thank you for giving us that presentation. You mentioned several programs that are available to businesses. What type of help has TEDA been providing, and have people been contacting you in regards to PPP and these other programs?
Yeah, have people been contacting us is a bit of a loaded question. Yeah, we set up a a business hotline as we had to work remotely. We knew this was going to be a time where we were, activated in a real way. And so we set up an email that we're urging people to, because it's a little bit easier for us to triage. So business people can call or email us at bizresponse@tpeda.org. That's bizresponse@tpeda.org. That goes to all of us, and we coordinate the response through email there. Even if it's a request for a phone call, we'll call them, but it's easier for us to track and manage it that way. We also have a hotline set up, and so we have it set up where they have a centralized number you can call. That number is 985-633-1887, 985-633-1887. And again, they can reach any of our staff directly through the switchboard, or they can press 1 if they want general information on the COVID response. And so we have been incredibly active on that front. I mean, our individual emails, our phone calls, pre-existing relationships, outreach, it has been constant communication with the business community. And so, yeah, we're providing as much as we can, and then we're looking at doing things where we can to get a little more reach. So like the presentations being online, the grant applications being online, we only have 3 staff, and so we can only talk to so many people per day. And so those types of things allow us to kind of get more reach along with the social media, and we're getting good activity. In fact, yesterday we had the highest amount of web hits that we've ever had. And so, more than 1,000 people looked at our website yesterday. We average 40 a day. So, yeah, we're getting a lot of good response.
You kind of hit on where I was going with this. You have a staff of 3. If they're not able to keep up, I mean, do we need to see about, moving funding to add a couple of part-time people? I know there's some people who are furloughed right now for the next month or 2 to handle calls, or are you getting that many to where you're able to not get to everybody?
Yeah, I've actually had this conversation. I asked my staff to let me know if we get to that point. And, we don't feel like we're quite there yet. And even in these grants, we're trying to reduce our expenses for these things. Unlike most grants where you would take a big administrative fee, we're trying to take as little as possible because we want that money going out to business. And so we don't want to get in a situation where we grow the organization in a disaster, but it's not sustainable. For temporary type solutions, we've talked to some other public agencies about some availability of their staff where we could enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with some of them. So we've had preliminary conversations. I think we have some people that we could onboard pretty quickly that understand the business community in Terrebonne Parish. But we haven't reached the point where I would say we're there yet. We're a little bit slow in responding, but so far every day we've responded to every day's inquiries. And so I think we're okay. But, we may get there as this drags on. We may need some additional support, but hopefully some additional outside funding would come along with that. Not necessarily from the parish, but through other grant programs that we're looking at, other sources of funding for recovery.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. As we know, TEDA is here to attract new businesses, but one of its big missions is to help keep businesses here. And this is a vital part of that. Anything we can do to help, just let us know. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry.
Okay, seeing no further hands, thank you, Matt, and we really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, moving on to item 2, streetlights. I entertain a motion to adopt the list as presented. A motion, Mr. Danny Babin, and second by Mr. John Amity. All in favor? Seeing 9 hands, motion passes. Announcements. Parish President. Anything to say from the Parish President?
That be on?
You on?
Hey, well, first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you, and thank y'all for working with myself, Earl Hughes, and Steve Pondville, and everything's going good. And thank y'all very much. And we're gonna get through this, and we need the public just to buckle down and stay very, very safe and careful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members, Mr. John Navy. Okay, Mr. John Navy, Mr. Amity.
Yes, I'd like to remind everybody in the parish that the animal shelter is still doing adoptions and fosters by appointment only. These are good times to have pets. When you have these high stress levels, they tend to calm you down. So if you are interested in adoptions or even fostering a pet, call the animal shelter and make an appointment for that. And second, this is the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And I'd just like to give a shout out to all the dispatchers for the EMS services in the parish and thank them for all that they're doing. They're kind of the quiet ones. You hopefully never have to speak to them because that means something terrible is probably going on, but we just want to send a shout out to those guys as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amity. Mr. Darren Guidry.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to congratulate you. I think you did an excellent job with our meeting today, and we're getting the learning curve, and second time is the charm, and I think things flowed smoothly, and I want to say congratulations on that. On the second thing, if we could explain to the people, if they're watching, if they do want to speak to the council, they still can speak to the council, even though we're having it in this fashion. They can call on the telephone like we saw Mr. Dove, or they can make a presentation to the council. In case anybody's watching, how do they do that? I know there is a speaker card. It's available where, and I don't know if this is a question for Suzette. But if somebody out there wants to speak at our next council meeting, what do they do?
Okay, Darren, we have speaker cards. Hold on, let me mute.
Suzette, we're having trouble hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's a little better.
Okay, we have speaker cards connected to the notice of the meetings that we send out, so that public notice that you receive. It also has the speaker card connected to that. We place the speaker card on the parish's website. It's also on the council Facebook page and its Twitter page. And it goes out to the local media also.
Okay, and is that speaker card available like on Facebook, or we could share it for the next meeting in case somebody wants to speak at the council?
Yes, sir, that speaker card is there also.
Thank you very much. And I think it's a learning curve for us, and I think it's a learning curve for the public, assuming we have we will have to do this again because April 30th, the order is ending. But, I encourage the public still to participate. They're still welcome to be a part of our meetings. And again, congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Good job.
Thank you, Darren. It's a learning experience, and I think we'll get through it. Mr. Danny Babin.
And we may forget how to do it the regular way after, Steve.
And I want to.
Yeah. Listen, I just want to thank and congratulate Suzette. This is her first meeting as the new council clerk, and she's done a terrific job, and her staff is outstanding. So I just want to pass that on to the public listening.
Thank you, Mr. Babin. Mr. Michel.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, Mr. Darren Guidry brings up some good points, and that is why it is so important. This is temporary. It's so important that we do not put things on that are controversial, that we do not put things on that can wait. If it can wait, let it wait so people can come in their comfort zone and address us in person. It's not a comfortable thing for most people right now. So, so the thing that we can do, which will be more effective than trying to educate the public on how to get on here, because this is so temporary, is we can delay as many things as are possibly delayable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Michel.
And Steve, I agree with Darren. You did a good job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I see no further hands. I got a couple of things I'm going to bring up. First off, we have some signs that are available to all the councilmen. If you want to put these signs out for the kind of commendating or acknowledging Terrebonne General Medical Center. So I guess just give it to Suzette if anybody wants any signs, little yard signs. And also, I want to thank all our veterans, active military, especially our first responders and law enforcement and firefighters that are dealing with this this problem we're having with this pandemic, COVID-19 problem. I want to keep those people in our thoughts and prayers daily. And I want to thank all of you guys for bearing with me on doing this meeting this way. I think this is a better situation tonight than it was last week, or last meeting rather. And if you have any suggestions or ideas of what I can do to make this work better, feel free to call me and let me know. I'll be glad to work with everybody to make this thing work smooth and better. I think it went by pretty good tonight. Just had a couple of hiccups. But other than that, that's all I got. We're going to move on to the monthly engineer reports. We don't have any discussion on it. Get a motion to accept them as presented. Mr. Bavin moves, Mr. Harding second. Signify by voting hands, raising the hand. Seeing 9 votes, motion passes. Can I get a motion to adjourn? A motion by Mr. Danny Bavin, second by Mr. Gerald Michel. All in favor, raise your hand. 9 votes, we adjourn. Thank you all. Y'all have a good evening.
Have a good evening.